Oh, hey, what's going on, guys? So one thing that breaks my heart a lot and something that I've observed, not only just, with this channel, with people around me, as well as just the state of the world, is that there's so many people that make their decision and they make their judgments based on people. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of good movements, there's a lot of good companies, there's a lot of good groups of people, there's a lot especially in Christianity, there's a lot of good things happening, except that a lot of people, they're turned off based on some of the people that they know, that they've met, that they've heard about, and they don't really go much deeper than that because they stop themselves short of exploring, of understanding, and getting deeper because of a rumor they heard, because of a person that hurt them, or whatever it is. And one of the best examples of that is knowing God, knowing Jesus, knowing what that's about, knowing what a relationship with Jesus is about. But because people were hurt based on a person that wasn't the best example of a Christian, they weren't the model example. They were somebody that disappointed you, that hurt you, that fell away, and you decided to not get into it. And at worst, you rejected God, you rejected Christianity, and you said, I'm not going to do any of this. And I have a lot of even atheist followers and non-Christian followers, and that's one of my biggest heartaches, right? But that also extends to many other things in life. And there's so many people that make their judgments on a movement, on a ideology or a view because of the people around them. And I even know some people, or I've heard that they don't choose something because they had that bad experience or because not the right people or the cool people aren't in on it, right? And so as an example, pro-life, pro-choice. Some people, they said, you know what? It's not about, pro-life for me. I'm going to go pro-choice because all the other people are doing it. All the cool people are doing it. All the celebrities are doing it and all that. But what sense does that make? Like, what sense does it make that you make a choice, you make a decision based on what people, whether they're good or whether they're bad examples of something are doing, right? Same thing goes for, a company, maybe a loyalty to something. I know people that say, yeah, I've been flying this airline or going to this restaurant or doing products or buying products and doing business with a certain company for years and years and years. And then they just get in a bad altercation with a flight attendant or a cashier, somebody that isn't the best example of that company. And then they say they're not going to do business, they're not going to do anything with this group or this company anymore. And they even go out of their way to spend a lot more money to just fly a different airline, to buy a different product. And, I understand some of the hurt and the pain and maybe the stance you're making, but to be able to hurt you financially, to be able to waste your time to go meander about because of whether it's a petty thing, depending on how you look at it, or whatever it is, that decision was still the same. It was a ultimatum. It was a decision based on one interaction, based on one person, somebody that's not the best model example, somebody that's flawed, somebody that may just have been having a bad day, right? But because the person made a huge decision to distance themselves, to say no to something, to move on to something else, that is ultimately hurting that company, that movement, that church, that social group, that political group, whatever it is. And so many people right now, and religion, especially Christianity and knowing God being the biggest that's been on my heart more than anything, is the issue right now that so many people are falling into. And I just want to encourage a lot of you guys, because whether you are a Christian, whether you are a non-Christian, doesn't matter. When you're looking at something, I want to encourage a lot of you guys to look at something objectively, to take a step back and say, man, did I make a rash and a harsh decision on something because of a person that I thought, was an example, but they disappointed me. They were having, the most, not an outburst, right, of sorts because of something personal they went through, as opposed to looking at the core movement behind it, the core ideology behind something, the core essence behind something, right? And God and Jesus being that within Christianity. and the other things, right, that I've mentioned, whether it's a company, whether it's a political group, whether it's a social group, a social movement, whether it's some kind of a justice movement, whatever it is. A lot of people, they're erroneously, right, with error, they're making decisions that are based on people. They're based on a misconception, based on what they heard, what people are saying, and so many other things, as opposed to looking at it deeply, just in and of itself, right? And so I just want to encourage a lot of you guys, because a lot of people are distancing themselves. They're making judgments and they're making harsh calls because they don't want to look like a fool. They don't want to look like they're associated with somebody. They don't want to be tied to something that just has a bad rep in essence because of people, right? And a lot of things, whether you want to say that those that are against, pro life, right, or LGBTQ or any other issue, right? And because people are so against some of the people that represent it, does that mean you have to make a choice to go against the fundamental ideology behind it, the fundamental aspect or the movement behind that, right? You don't want to do that, especially with God, especially with Jesus Christ. And so I just want to encourage some of you guys, because a lot of people, and I'm calling it out, right? They're making petty moves. They're making adolescent and just simple choices that may not necessarily have been the most mature decision to make. And some of these choices are lifelong. You committed yourself not to ever do business again. You committed yourself never to look at the Bible, never to look at God again because of the people that you were hurt by. And I just want to encourage some of you guys, because that's not the best representation. People are never going to be the best representation of something. You will always have people that disappoint you, that will hurt you, that will have some kind of tarnishment to them. And it's not going to change who God is, who Jesus is, who the movement is, and the messaging behind something, right? So just wanted to encourage a lot of you guys to rethink, to consider, to be objective, to take a step back and really assess it as much as you can outside of your feelings and your emotions and just whatever it is that may have hyped you up in that moment to make such a harsh decision. So God bless you guys, be encouraged, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.